Hello, welcome back to the third part of three parts of these short videos about anxiety, physiological effects. Today I'm talking about one of the habits that accidentally keeps you anxious. Now, one of the most frustrating things about anxiety is this. The very things people do to feel safer often keeps their anxiety going. And this is not because people are weak, it's because anxiety is designed to make you seek certainty, control, and protection. Now, as a therapist, one of the biggest things I help people understand is how anxiety becomes cyclical. Now, once you understand the cycle, you stop seeing yourself as broken. You start understanding why your brain keeps repeating the same patterns. And today I want to walk you through some of the most common behaviours that accidentally reinforce that cycle over time. The first reason is very simple. The brain wants certainty. Now, at its core, anxiety is often deeply connected to uncertainty. The brain wants to know, am I safe? What's going to happen? Can I prevent something bad? And can I control the outcome? And when certainty isn't available, which is part of being human, the anxious brain starts trying to reduce discomfort. That's when behaviours begin appearing. And those behaviours are overthinking, avoidance, checking, researching, reassurance seeking, control, and mental reviewing. And temporarily, these behaviours often reduce anxiety. That's why they become habits. The brain learns that worked, let's do that again. But over time, the nervous system starts becoming more dependent on those behaviours to feel safe, and anxiety slowly goes stronger. So let's talk about avoidance. Avoidance is one of the most powerful anxiety reinforcers, and avoidance doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it's avoiding difficult conversations. Sometimes it's avoiding social situations. Sometimes it's procrastination, and sometimes it's emotional avoidance. Distracting yourself constantly, staying busy all the time, never slowing down. The reason avoidance strengthens anxiety is because the brain never gets the opportunity to learn, I can handle this. Instead, the brain learns, good thing we escaped, that situation must really be dangerous, and the fear grows. Now, this is why anxiety tends to shrink people's lives over time. People stop doing things they once enjoyed. They become increasingly cautious, increasingly hypervigilant, and increasingly exhausted. Another part of the anxiety cycle is reassurance. And this can look like constantly checking your symptoms online, repeatedly asking people if everything is okay, needing certainty in relationships, double checking mistakes, rereading messages, monitoring body symptoms. And again, reassurance works temporarily. That's why it's so addictive. You feel anxious, you seek reassurance, you feel relief, but then the anxiety returns. And eventually your brain starts to believe, I cannot tolerate uncertainty unless I check. And this is one of the reasons anxiety can become so consuming. Now, the brain becomes trapped in a constant search for certainty that never fully arrives, because certainty is impossible. It's impossible to achieve completely. Especially in life, especially in relationships, especially in health, and especially in the future. So many people, many anxious people, become highly controlling, not because they want power over others, but because control feels safer than uncertainty. So they over prepare, they overthink, they micromanage, they plan excessively, and they try to predict outcomes. And underneath all of that is usually fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing control, fear of being overwhelmed. And the problem is this: the more someone tries to control everything externally, the more fragile they often feel internally, because life still remains unpredictable. And eventually the nervous system becomes exhausted. It becomes exhausted trying to maintain impossible levels of certainty. Now, one of the most healing shifts for anxious people is to learn something quite simple. Safety does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from increasing your ability to tolerate uncertainty. Now, that's a completely different approach. So, if avoiding, checking, controlling, and overthinking keeps anxiety going, what actually helps? Well, first, understanding. Because self-awareness changes everything. Second, learning how to respond differently to anxiety, not perfectly, differently. For example, instead of immediately seeking self-assurance, pause, notice the discomfort. Allow the feeling to exist without urgently trying to eliminate it. Instead of treating anxiety like an emergency, begin asking, what if this feeling is uncomfortable but actually not dangerous? That question alone can begin changing your relationship with how you view anxiety. Another important shift is reducing shame. Many anxious people are incredibly hard on themselves, but criticism rarely regulates the nervous system. Compassion does, support does, and safety does. And often therapy helps because people finally have a space where they no longer have to perform being okay. So if there's one thing I want people to take away from these 3 videos, it's this. Anxiety is not just in your head. It affects thoughts, emotions, the body, relationships, and behaviours. And many people have been surviving in stress responses for so long they've forgotten what genuine calm feels like. But these patterns can change. The nervous system absolutely can and does heal, and understanding yourself differently is often the beginning to those changes. So if these videos, this series has resonated with you, then let me know which part connected with you most. Message me on any of my social media outlets. And if you'd like more videos, anxiety, stress, nervous system regulation, trauma responses, emotional health, then just like, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do on these formats. Remember, you're far from alone in these experiences. They are very, very common. Lots and lots of people feel the same way as you do. And more people relate to this than you probably realise. So thank you for watching. I'll be back with some more videos in the short future.